have vowed to resume duty only if the government releases at least 80% of their salaries.
The lecturers, now on their 48th day of strike, said the partial payment would allow them to return to work as they wait for the remaining 20%.
However, they noted that it remains uncertain whether the government is willing or able to meet this demand.
Union leaders from the university's academic staff union WASU and the Kenya University Staff Union KUSU emphasized that their members are struggling financially and cannot continue working without payment. They
insisted that the government must act urgently to resolve the stalemate.
Will the unions urge this honorable committee to prevail upon IPCCF, Ministry of Education, and the National Treasury to release the outstanding 7.9 billion at once.
What is very, very key for the unions is the implementation of 2017-2021. And now they move on.
50% in financial year 25-26 and then 50% in 26-27.
My plea is accept the 50-50 and let us move from this mountain.
The worst of the worst, Chair, is 80-20. They give us 80% and the 20% to remain. My irreducible minimum for the sake of you and the honorable committee members and the students of this country. I'm going to plead with our members so that we can reconsider. You don't push us.
Human rights organizations are calling for the resignation of Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and Kenya's ambassador to Uganda over alleged negligence in the case of 2 Kenyan nationals detained in Uganda.
According to the activists, the government has failed to take decisive action to secure the release of Bob Jagi and Nicholas Oyo, who have reportedly been held in Uganda under unclear circumstances.
The groups claim the 2 Kenyans are currently in poor health and are appealing for urgent intervention.
Speaking during a press briefing, the activists criticized what they termed as slow and ineffective diplomacy, arguing that senior government officials tasked with safeguarding the welfare of Kenyans abroad have not lived up to their responsibility.
They urged the state to intensify efforts to secure the release of the detained duo and ensure their safe return home.
We will not get tired until we see our comrades free, even if it means that we will come and keep vigil here.
I am really pursuing my government to make sure that they bring our comrades home.
Until now, he has not even spoken anything about our comrades who are missing.
Tunaomba tu William Samoei Ruto atafute vijana wetu atulali.
Now, the death toll from the recent landslides in Elgeyo Marakwet has climbed to 34 after 2 more bodies were recovered on Tuesday from the affected areas.
Search and recovery teams continue to come through debris with fears that more victims may still be trapped under the mud and rubble.
Families who have yet to locate their loved ones have camped at the scene, anxiously awaiting updates as rescue efforts persist.
Local authorities say the operation is ongoing and that exact number of missing persons is still unclear.
Meanwhile, the government has stepped up relief efforts, distributing food and essential supplies to those affected by the disaster.
Officials are also working to evacuate residents living in high-risk zones to prevent further loss of life as rains continue in the region.
Naomba serikali wanisaidie kusomesha huyu kijana mwenye alikuwa shule ya KMTC. Nimepoteza huyu wa university.
Wacha tu naomba serikali awasaidie.
Na mpaka saa hizi hajaonekana.
Watoto yangu amechukuliwa na maji yote, sina baki na mzee. Na hakuna kitu yeyote, na hakuna kitu nyumbani. Na sisi tu ndio na kaifu tu.
Watu wangetolewa waende sehemu ya juu. Alafu upande wa hanging file yote ikuwe conservation area, waweke tu miti blue gum yote. I think hatutakuwa na shida tena.
At least 36 individuals have been arrested across the country in connection with cheating incidents during the ongoing Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education case KCSE examinations.
Authorities say the suspects were nabbed in different regions as the government intensifies efforts to curb exam malpractice.
Among those arrested were individuals found impersonating candidates at a school in Nairobi and another institution in Kericho.
Police report that the suspects were writing exams on behalf of the registered candidates before they were intercepted.
In Marsabit County, several students were also detained after they were reportedly found with mobile phones inside examination rooms, a violation of strict exam regulations.
Education officials have reiterated their commitment to ensuring the integrity of the national exams, warning that anyone involved in cheating, aiding malpractice, or attempting to compromise the exam process will face legal consequences. Right, and of course the examination period continues with the KCSE examinations. They're set to conclude at the end of this month.
Yeah.
And like I just talked about yesterday, we were having a conversation around it, and that, you know, we are nearing the completion of the 844 system before we can have, you know, a complete transition to the CBC system. So, you know, cases of exam malpractice is not quite new in Kenya, but there's a time there's a complete reduction, and we're wondering why we are back in this position again.
Yeah, I think we are moving into a new thing, Cynthia, and I feel because this is the last cohort for this system, I feel maybe
not the last, actually.
Not the last.
Yeah, the third last.
The third last, yes. I'm feeling it's like they are trying to test kind of very hard exams to the students, and that's why you feel like, or even again there is the comparison of my school was number 1 or 2, or even we topped this year's examinations. That's why you see even people are impersonating. Impersonating means that you are not a candidate. It's like a parent or a teacher sitting on behalf of a student, maybe who complained, or even so, the exemptions that is coming in is so hard for someone to do the same. And again, I also look at the Ministry of Education. I think strict measures and maybe regulations of how teachers should deliver. I think they are not strict on it, in that teachers are not delivering and they are supposed to deliver.
Right.
Like they just got, because number 1, they are not well paid, and again there's no motivation. So I feel teachers can just go to class, they just write things on the blackboard and just leave. No explanation, no good delivery to the students. At the end of it all, you find that there's nothing that student or a pupil can write on a paper in terms of examinations. Yeah,
so, you know, it's a question on, can we really have an exam period where we are recording 0 cases of malpractice? But, you know, we'll be looking forward to see these cases and just how they're going to be dealt with. However, next up, newspaper review. Let's take a look at the newspapers and what is making headlines this morning on the local dailies. Before we get to the Standard, I'll kick it off with the Daily Nation. How payroll cartel is milking Kenyans. Now, unemployment fraud is looming, where ghost workers, fake academic papers, backdated birth certificates, double allowances and job group manipulation are some of the ways through which rogue public servants and managers are siphoning billions of taxpayers' money every year. Public Service Cabinet Secretary Geoffrey Ruku yesterday said hundreds of civils of servants are under investigation over the rampant malpractice. Now, I mean, look at this, where you're having ghost workers in the public service, you're having fake academic papers, persons that are using fake papers to get jobs, backdated birth certificates, people that are trying to forge their ages because of perhaps the retirement period, they don't want it to catch up with them. The double allowances, as well as job group manipulation, are some of the ways through which rogue public servants and managers are siphoning billions of taxpayers' money. And, interestingly, I came across a story online yesterday where an individual was giving their own, experience and say they applied for a job in 2021, was it? And they actually got the feedback of that job yesterday. So that was quite interesting from my point of view. However, this is an issue that I know people know exists. But it's just that, no one can authoritatively pinpoint a case or cases where these things are happening because they have not been tried at the corridors of court yet. But it paints to a very painful job-seeking process, especially if you're a genuine candidate in the public service. You could have graduated with that degree. You could have that experience. You could have, gotten, just, a proper, I'd say, way of applying. You went through the right process, for lack of a better word. You went through, whether it's the website or whichever direction that they had given, but you're not going to get that job because somebody else has manipulated things, has got fake academic papers. They're actually bribing to get this job. And the truth of the matter is that's the reality of Kenya's public service.
And I would also think that if all these things take place, I think Cynthia, this is how an economy goes down. Number one, you find that if you're bribing, it is a proof that you've had money from your lineage for a long time, because you can't bribe without money. And if you're bribing, this is to mean that you don't have the education value or even the professionalism value and threshold of it whereby you can qualify for something. Then this is to mean there are no results that will come in from this. You just be pushed by those people who feel that I fit here. I love to be pushing a team of like 10 people. We're working 10 of us. I'm the only better one in a team and in an institution. So this is to mean I'll just be pulling down the results that I'm supposed to push at the end of the day. Meaning that for a country like this, it's so like, Cynthia, you find you in school, like you are 100 students in one class, and they're just relying on one student to. So this is to mean whenever you come out in the working sector, this is to mean that you never give anything, you'll never deliver, because you don't have the foundation that is required, don't have the requirements that are required. So I would wish that they have to be very strict in that. If it's vetting, if it's maybe interviewing, and they have to see the qualification that this person should have, and not just assuming and saying that just give me 100,000, I'll give you this position. And I think it's also when it comes to issues of police recruitments, you find that I'm not qualified. Maybe kuna jino moja sina. It's a qualification that you have to fill that two of them. But now you find that because you don't have that qualification, you have to give out something. Then at the end of the day, you just move around and you find a police person. They're not delivering as they're supposed. And you're looking at something like, you just ask yourself, what was the qualification? What did they look at so that they can put this person into that position?
Yeah, and I'd also love to bring up the aspect on the wage bill. Yesterday, the CS for National Treasury admitted that the country pays salaries to, those in the public service, 80 billion shillings a month. In a year, that's 960 billion shillings. Basically, we are close to 1 trillion shillings per financial year, paying salaries. And that's very extremely worrying because we need to get that wage bill down.
Yeah.
And if they can do a proper audit and just eliminate ghost workers, eliminate those with fake academic papers, eliminate these double allowances, eliminate job group manipulation, then perhaps that wage bill can be lowered a little bit, because 80 billion shillings a month, that's quite high, and 960 billion shillings in a year. I mean, close to 1 trillion shillings as salaries, and yet you're having a budget of roughly, let's say, 4 trillion shillings. So the other 3 trillion shillings is what we are supposed to divide between developing the country and paying debts as well. So it's such a terrible position to be in as a country, and we hope he said, they said he was an expert to government, so we hope that his expertise will be able to solve this problem.
I don't think whether it will solve. And so I'm still held up on the issue of ghost workers being paid. Because if it's a ghost worker, this is to mean none receive this money. The person who has perpetrated this, or even who has put the ghost worker into place, I think they're the people who benefit from the same. So you may look at a place where a CS baby is getting like 700,000. He has ghost workers for himself, like maybe 10 of them. 10 being paid 500,000. 500,000. Yes, 500,000. Multiplied by 10, that is 5 million. So this is to mean by the end of the month, this person is pocketing almost 4 million.
Yeah.
And this is the same person claiming or even complaining of ghost workers. Then they are the only people who have just positioned these ghost workers in those positions. So I think we have to be very careful. And I think SCRC should be so much concerned with this, so that they can do a good analysis on who is supposed to be paid and where you're working, what's your position, what have you worked, what is your history, or maybe from this institution. Yeah, at least we have information from such a person, so that if you're paying, we're just not paying a vacuum.
Right, and also top of the page, the landslide search is still on for the missing 34 people dead. That was one of the top stories we did this morning. Now, on the university lecturers' strike, there is hope that there could be a breakthrough between government and lecturers' talks, with the government proposing to pay off the 7.9 billion shilling salary arrears in 2 phases, 80 and 20%. And the WASU SG Dr. Constantine Wasonga has hinted at possibly allowing this rather than having it paid in 3 installments. So the union, which had demanded a one-off settlement of the arrears accrued under the 2017-2021 CBA, now says it is open to a 2-phased payment. This marks a shift from the government's earlier offer to pay in 3 installments. Wasonga told Parliament on Thursday that the union was ready to compromise to allow students to return to class, and he proposed an 80-20 payment formula where 80% of the arrears would be cleared immediately and the balance paid in the next financial year. So if you do your math, 80% of 7.9 billion shillings should give you a figure to which the government is supposed to clear. So those are some of the stories on top of the Daily Nation this morning. Okay, we're shifting to the Standard, the Kenya's board newspaper, and the Standard is not yet tired of what's taking place around Tanzania. It's like in every page we're looking at stories that are covering Suluhu Samia's general elections that took place on 29th October this year. And the top page is talking of Suluhu's vendetta, and vendetta is like ugly, something so ugly, something like a grudge, or even you want to do a revenge on the same. And so the Standard is talking of these foreigners, and it's very clear that Suluhu mentioned yesterday that none from Tanzania died, but foreigners died. And I can read something. Yes, it's a revenge. Tanzania has unleashed a ruthless crackdown on foreigners innocently accused of stalking post-election violence, with police and soldiers raiding lodgings, tightening borders, and detaining East Africans without cause. The directive issued from police headquarters late Monday has sent shockwaves through the hospitality sector and triggered fear among Kenyans living in the country. Before we do this, and there is an excerpt from
for Kiswahili, and we shall be reading it later. But before we look at the grudge and the vendetta that Samia Suluhu is just one day old in the presidential seat, and is trying to, this is our president who is duly elected, if at all, but we quote the duly elected, and again, who is just one day old in that position. Yep. Is trying to promise kind of revenge to foreigners. And sometimes, some few days ago, it was all Kenyans doing this and doing that, doing that. It was a mention every minute from Suluhu's mouth. But now, it's like he's trying to play safe in that I just don't want to mention anyone who was involved in these demonstrations. But foreigners were involved. About the foreigners, we just don't want to say who the foreigners are, but it's very clear that there is a place where he's pointing his figures at. And we're looking at how Suluhu clinched this position, how he got the numbers, how he got the votes, and how, like yesterday's swearing in ceremony, how it was. And we can look at the voters. We are not in the venue. And then this person is promising to revenge to these people. Look at the relations that we have, or even the East African community. Look at the relationship that we have. What does it mean for Suluhu to promise revenge over these people? Because if they are foreigners, you have to maybe abduct them, or even you have to arrest them, so that you can ask for their identity, so that you can call them, so that you can remove the tag a foreigner. You say this is from Rwanda, this is from Uganda, this is from Kenya. I think that's how she's supposed to do. And how will this take place, Cynthia? Now, looking at what happened yesterday, the swearing-in ceremony, is that unrest is still being witnessed throughout Tanzania. Yeah.
And you know, this is quite unprecedented if that's the route that the Samia presidency is going to take and the Samia administration is going to take, because you know, it's one thing for you to make such an accusation that foreigners were involved. And if you're not able to table the facts and evidence, then, you know, they remain mere allegations. And for there to be a crackdown on foreign nationals, I mean, first and foremost, for her saying foreigners, then, you know, what region, what nation are you talking about? And, you know, obviously, because of the diplomatic aspects of it, she couldn't actually mention the name of the country that she alludes are people that, you know, are going to protest in Tanzania or have caused unrest in Tanzania. But this is quite unprecedented, and especially if you're taking over a nation which is largely split on whether you should be president or not, and then the first thing you do is actually crack down on foreign nationals, paint a bad image of you first and foremost as an individual, of your administration, and then also is this a way of inciting Tanzanians, your supporters, quote unquote, against these foreign nationals, because you're trying to say people from other countries are coming here to disrupt the peace of a nation, and that's quite a grave accusation. So I mean, this is not really the route that she should be taking, and she needs to have proper conversations with her administration, her ministers, on just what's the best course of action to take following the unrest that was witnessed in Tanzania.
And before she accuses these foreigners, Cynthia, you have to go back to 28th, at the eve of the general elections. I think the foreigners were not the people who promised that no elections that will take place.
It wasn't the foreigners voting as well.
So it's allegations, and look at the kind of accusations that is trying to paint on these foreigners, whereby they don't have such a bigger responsibility as far as elections are concerned. And he's promising to get them, to maybe to punish them. Because if I read something here, she wrote something, she used the language: sikushtuka kuona kuna watu waliotoka nchi jirani na kuanza vita humu nchini mwetu. Nitawatafuta kila mmoja wenu na mtajua mimi ndiye amri jeshi kuu na simba jike. Still getting back, the first day in office, this is the second day, but no peace in the office.
I think Samia really is focusing on the wrong issues at hand. because it's not foreigners who were protesting on the streets. And actually, some foreigners have been killed, including a Kenyan who was a teacher who was also caught up in the melee and was killed. How about promising justice for this family and saying that they're going to get, you know, to the bottom of the issue on who exactly fired the shot? How about getting justice for the Tanzanians that were killed? How about brokering peace? How about finding a way of nation building? This should not be top of the priority, regardless of whether or not there were foreigners that were attempting to, you know, have their hand play out in the elections and in the results that were announced. But if you listen to that kind of sentiment, I mean, it's sort of a threat almost.
It's a threat. Simba Jike.
Yeah, almost like a threat.
And I think Simba Jike is more dangerous than a male lion. Yeah, so this is to mean we are coming for you.
Yeah, we'll actually be having a conversation about this later on with my guest in studio, Dr. Edwin Wangoli. So I'll be also keen to hear from his point of view, especially as a person that really talks about democracies within East Africa. Yeah,
and I also read something else. So just stopped us, searched the vehicles, and again asked about our stay in Tanzania. Most of us still had valid 30-day permits, but they claimed foreigners should only stay for a week. They made us sleep on the tarmac, cocked their guns and pointed them at some of us. It was terrifying. What benefits do foreigners have for a country where they reside? Because I'm looking at a place where their permits were valid for 30 days and you're supposed to be here for only 1 week. I expect, or even I tend to think, and I tend to think that if you have a permit that is taking you in a foreign place or even a foreign country and a town, I think you are going there maybe for different transactions that will be a benefit and advantage to the country that you're visiting. Maybe you going as a local tourist, you have to leave something for that country. If you're going for business, there is that mutual benefits that you're getting from your side and them getting from you and you getting from them. So this is to mean it's two-way traffic. It's beneficial from one side to the other. And now you're supposed to, if your permit is reduced from 30 days to 1 week, this is to mean, or accomplishments that you are supposed to do or even to fulfill in that region, you don't fulfill them. Then again, someone is cocking their guns towards you. That kind of terrifying situation, and you're going maybe to do business, you're going to have maybe a good time with your family around that place. So I think this paints a bad picture for Tanzania, whereby Sulu calling ourselves Simba Jike is like, even if you feel that you're right, I'm supposed to compromise it and I'm supposed to force all that I need upon you, and I'll do all that I feel it's right for me. And look at, I overheard someone say that, yes, I overheard, but it's very clear that Sulu is Zanzibari born. And if you're Zanzibari born, it's history. I'm yet to confirm it very clear, but if you're Zanzibari born, there is a way they were to exchange that. And remember, Zanzibari and Tanganyika, that is how they came together and they combined it to one nation, and this is Tanzania. So the agreement initially was, if these 5 years we get a president from Zanzibari, the other time we get from now Tanganyika. That was the agreement. I'm looking at Sulu coming from Zanzibari to Tanganyika. If we get back to history, and he comes here and puts all pressure on these people, whereby I think he's supposed to sit down and first listen to from the people of Tanganyika what they do. Then from there, he is well versed with every information, with everything done there. Then he is able to maybe reign and rule well that region.
All right, we'll be having a conversation around that with my guest in studio. Allow us to wrap it up at that point on the newspapers. We take a quick break. We'll be back shortly with that conversation. What next for Tanzania? We'd love to get your views and thoughts this morning. Our SMS line is open. You can also send us a message on WhatsApp.
That's great. Don't go too far. We're coming back.